Everybody, it's Dana. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. Today we're going to be making a cute card using the Sun Bunny special stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm also using today the Mini Misty from My Sweet Petunia. I finally was able to get my hands on one, and I have to say it's a little bit different than using my large Misty. I'm also going to be using the Fabriano paper, watercolor paper. This is the first time I'm using my Mini Misty to stamp out a card panel, and I have to say it's a little bit different than using my larger Misty. I'm so used to having a larger area to stamp with, so I'm going to embrace it and get used to using it. So I have just two of the little images. I'm using the mailbox and just the cute little bunny, and I'm also using the Ranger Archival ink. I'm also using this new paper. This is the first time I'm using it to watercolor with some zig markers. I have tried several times to use zig markers, and for some reason, the papers I have been using, I have not been getting really good success with. So I want to try this paper to see if I can get my zig markers to lay down a little bit differently. So I have noticed with my Mini Misty that I have to make sure that my magnets are not as close to my image when I am stamping. So that's one of the things I have noticed with my Mini Misty compared to my larger Misty. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a few colors of zig markers. And we're going to go ahead and start watercoloring. I'm just also going to use a regular aqua water brush where the water is already in the barrel. So for my little bunny, he's going to be a light shade of gray. I will have to tell you immediately starting off using this paper, I have to tell you, I really like how it works with these zig markers. It seems to just totally blend out the color a little bit more easily for me compared to using like the Canson watercolor. And I was also colored before on the Tim Holtz watercolor paper. This one just seems to be a lot smoother for me. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see the coloring process a little bit closer. So that is with a lighter gray. So I'm going to go in a couple more spots and add just a tad bit of color. And you can see it kind of just pulls out the color just a little bit better than some of the other papers that I have been using. So I'm going to go in with a darker gray and just to add a little bit more shading. And you see it just kind of really pulls out that color nice and even for me. So this might end up being my go-to paper now when I'm using my zig markers. Not sure, but for right now, I'm really enjoying the process with this paper. So I'm using just some really easy, pretty, bright colors for this little bunny. So this is just going to be a really pretty pink color. I'll try to remember to link all the colors that I use for this image in the bottom of the description. So he's just going to be a nice gray color. And now I'm going to come in for my grass and I'm just going to lay down. I believe this one here was just a regular green or olive green or light green. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I did keep my marker set off to the side. So I'll try to remember, like I said, to link them in the video below. So as you can see, really with using this paper, I just find that it allows my zig markers to just really flow across the paper. I think this paper has maybe a smoother texture to it or maybe a little bit more of a coating. But I'm just really finding that I love, love, love this paper. So I'll probably end up going back to Hobby Lobby and getting myself a few more paper pads. So I'm going to come in with a brown. And I'm just going to go ahead and do my wood pole and go ahead and blend that out. And I don't have to use a lot of water with my zigs on this particular paper either. So I'm just going to come back in with a little bit more of that brown and go ahead and pull that color in. This is going to be really simple coloring. I'm not going to be adding a whole bunch of shadows or anything like this. It's just going to be Just quick and easy coloring for today. So I'm just going to outline my mailbox in this pretty shade of pink, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pull that color in. So I don't really use my zig markers as much as I should. So that's why I thought today I would pull them out instead of using my Copic markers or maybe go into my watercolor palettes. I figured I would go ahead and use my zig markers today. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly finish up my cute little mailbox. But you can definitely see how easy it is to lay down my color and actually pull it just from the corners of that darker color and just be able to pull it out so I get a nice gradation of color. So I'm just going to add a little bit more just to that one edge and then go ahead and pull that color out. I'm really enjoying playing with my zigs. Like I said, I should use them more often, but I have a tendency to go to my Copic markers because they have always been my first love. But I've started to really enjoy the process of using my watercolor paints, and I really need to show my zig markers some love. So I wanted this card to be a light and airy card, so that's why I chose not to use my Copic markers. So I'm just going to finish up a little bit of the coloring. I'm going to add a little bit more of a darker brown right down the center of my wood. I'm just going to quickly blend that out, and just on the bottom of the grass, just to give a little bit of shadow where the picket of that fence material would be, that pole would be. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. And that is going to be it for the coloring. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my sentiment. So I put my card back into my MISTI. And at this point, I'm just trying to figure out where I want my sentiment to be. I'm not sure exactly what two sentiments I want to use and where exactly I want it to be over my mailbox. So I think that's kind of where I want everything to be, and I'm just going to go with it. So I'm going to press that down, and I'm going to use the same archival ink that I stamped the image in, just because it's sitting on my desk. Usually I would use the VersaFine Black Onyx ink, but like I said, it was already sitting on my desk, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that black archival ink. So I'm just going to make sure I ink it up so my sentiment is very crisp. All right, that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out the way, and we can go ahead and start getting this card put together. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my ATG gun. Now usually you guys know I always used white cardstock to put my card panels on. But today I chose to use a pretty green, since this is more of a spring colored card. This is going to be very clean and simple. I'm just going to add a few sequins to this, because I'm going to quickly pop this card into the mail to one of my girlfriends, and she's actually getting ready to move. So I want to make sure that I get this out in the mail before she ends up packing up all her things. At this point, I'm just trying to make sure I have some colorful sequins, but ones that aren't overly too bright, that are just going to be just right for my card. So as you can see, I have a ton of rainbow color sequins. So I'm just trying to pick the ones that I think are going to look the best. And I always, when I lay down my sequins, I always go in threes. I just like to have odd numbers when I lay down my sequins, or if I do my enamel dots. To me, just a series of threes always look better. So to put my sequins down, I'm using my multi-matte medium. So I'm just trying to figure out before I press down the last two of those sequins exactly where I want them. So I'm going to put that pinky purple one down there. And because these sequins kind of have like an iridescent kind of look to them, And one part of the light they look at one color, and another part when you kind of lift the card they look at a different color. I'm just going to grab a very fine point marker, and I'm just going to add a little bit of faux stitching to this one. Faux stitching used to be like the rave a couple years ago, and then I kind of got away from it. But I always feel like if you don't want to add really anything else to a card panel, putting down little dots or little faux stitching really just finishes off your card without adding more layers or anything else to it. If you just put a couple dots down or some faux stitching, it really just makes your card complete. All right, and that is going to finish up my card today. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.